Namaskar. The topic is Biopsychology of Yoga. We are discussing chakras, and today is the third chakra, which is called Manipura chakra. Pura means a city, town, and Mani means something dazzling, something shining, something like a diamond, So Manipura means a city of jewels. So Manipura chakra represents a state of the mind where the external reality, the external world, becomes extremely attractive. We become in love with the external world. We become, just as if, we become fascinated with the glory and the shining of the external world. So that is the state of the mind at the Manipura chakra. Manipura chakra controls digestive system. It is generating heat in the body. It controls the level of heat within the body. And it also connected, it controls the igneous factor. Igneous means fire factor within the body and mind system. So emotions of the Manipura chakra, they're very much connected. They're fiery emotions. They're connected with the heat. Sometimes the emotions which we experience at the level of Manipura chakra, they produce heat in the body, and sometimes we feel cold due to those emotions because heat is switched off. The chakra cannot function and we feel so cold and shaky. So that is Manipura chakra. It is located at the level of the navel point. It's here, just here, in the middle of the body. So Manipura chakra represents energy, it represents activity. Swadhisthana chakra, you remember the symbolism. It was a crocodile. Crocodile is a reptile, and reptile is a cold-blooded animal. Cold blood is a passive attitude towards life. Means if the weather is good, if the sun is shining and the temperature is warm outside, then the lizards, they become very, very active. They run very fast. But if the weather becomes very cold, then the lizards, they're also going into kind of hibernation. So in the same way, but with the hot-blooded animals, their activity doesn't depend so much to that extent from the environment. So the symbolism of the Manipura chakra is the domination over the environment. You are trying to conquer the nature. You are trying to conquer the world. You are trying to establish yourself forcefully in this world. The symbolism of the Manipura chakra, animal symbolism, is ram. You know, the goat, the mountain creature. Have you seen the pictures with those rams, those mountain goats, how they, like this? I don't know, I have no idea how these animals, they get into those mountain peaks and how it's just a human being with equipment. It would be a difficult thing to get there, but they just climb somehow. So that adventurous nature is represented by this ram. And also a thick fur represents fire. Manipura chakra is controlling the eyesight. So when the Manipura chakra is strong, then the eyes become very, very clear and powerful, forceful. Sometimes when the Manipura chakra is overdeveloped, when it is really, really strong, it is very difficult to bear the direct sight of the person. Like you cannot look into his or her eyes. I mean, it is very rarely, but sometimes these powerful people, they are there. Especially, spiritual people, those who are working to control the Manipura chakra. Sometimes they acquire this type of energy, and their eyes are very, very powerful. So, okay, so digestion, the warmth of the body, then digestion, warmth of the body, eyesight, and it generally represents the desire to dominate in the environment. It represents activity, it represents energy, and it represents hot emotions which are characteristic to mammals. Yeah, this kind of chakra. Okay, so Manipura chakra contains within itself 10 vrittis, 10 propensities. All of them are fiery. So, okay, just to summarize what I have said, Manipura chakra is symbolized by a ram, by God. It is representing the activity, the desire to dominate the environment. It controls the fire element in the body, energy element in the body. It is controlling the digestive system, and it controls the heat, the warmth of the body. So you can also see if you feel that you are very vulnerable to cold, it means the Manipura chakra is not strong. Like your feet and hands, they're easily getting cold. It means the weakness of Manipura chakra. Also the digestion. If digestion is not powerful, if there is a constipation, if there is indigestion, then you need to look into your Manipura chakra. You need to fix it a bit. You need to strengthen that Manipura chakra. Mentally, Manipura chakra controls 10 propensities, 10 powerful, strong, hot emotions. Sometimes they're hot, sometimes they're very cold. I mean, because of when the vritti goes out of balance, out of control, then the chakra cannot function anymore normally, and the heating system of the body is just suspended, and then that's why you're feeling cold. So 10 emotions are there. Those emotions, they are characteristic to hot-blooded animals, to mammals. Emotions of anger, attachment, irritation, the hatred, greed, all those emotions, they are generated at the level of Manipura chakra. And Manipura chakra controls all those animal tendencies, you can say. But Manipura chakra is already quite a far advancement in the evolutionary ladder. It is you have gone very far away from the Svadhisthana chakra. If at the level of Svadhisthana chakra, let's say if the 99% of our society would be dominated by the emotions of Svadhisthana chakra, then the society would collapse. It become just a mess and it would be a collection of brutes. No, there would not be any proper adjustment in the society. There would not be any proper coordination and cooperation. But when the Manipura chakra comes in the way, when the Manipura chakra starts to function, when the people experience the emotions at the level of Manipura, then they are able actually to build a subtle culture. They will be able to build a subtle culture with the discipline, with the cleanliness, with the beauty, and so on. But of course, the Manipura chakra, the dark side of Manipura chakra, also it is a powerful center, the powerful emotions, but that power may be easily abused and misused, that power. So, but anyhow, it is a big advancement from Svadhisthana chakra. So what are the emotions? I would say the most significant one, very colorful, bright emotion, I mean that it is very noticeable, outstanding emotion, is called moha vritti, or blind attachment. What is that blind attachment? It is you can term it as an irrational love. You love something very strongly. You want something. You are attached to that thing, and it is actually not love. Love starts from Anahata chakra, but it is a kind of love. It is an egoistic feeling. When you are in a proximity with some object, slowly you will develop an attachment to that object. It may be an attachment to land, it may be an attachment to locality, it may be an attachment to things, it may be attachment to ideas, it may be attachment to people, to pets, to things, to money, to power, and so on and so on and so on. So when you remain in a proximity with the object, that attachment is naturally develops in us, unless we do something special to counteract, to overcome that attachment. So attachment, like at the level of Swadhisthana chakra, there was no attachment. The person is not attached to any objects. Person wants to only enjoy the objects, but there is no attachments. Today he enjoys this object, tomorrow he will go enjoy that object, and there is no attachment. But at the level of Manipura chakra, when the person starts to feel some pleasure, start to get some pleasure from the object, he wants to preserve that. He wants to create a bonding between himself and the object of attachment. That is normally we call, oh, I love you, I miss you, I cannot live without you. That is not actually love, that is called attachment. Why it is not love? Because it is egoistic. I cannot live without you. I miss you. I suffer without you. The first figure here is still I, not you. But already, like in Swadhisthana chakra, I would not care at all for the object which gives me the pleasure. If I drive a car, I don't care. I may break that car. I may really abuse that car. But if you are at the level of Manipura chakra, have you seen people who meticulously they take care for everything they have? So that is a level of consciousness here, a little bit higher. So also in relationships with other human beings, when we develop attachment, we care, we protect, we try to develop and make more beautiful someone whom we love. But also we are trying to control, to manipulate. For that person, we try to make that person to remain the way I want him to be. So that is attachment. And attachment is good at a certain evolutionary level because it allowed us to create a society, it allowed us to create families, it allowed us to create some bondings and connections in the society. But when you move further, that attachment becomes an impediment. And also, when we develop an attachment, it is becoming a source of misery for us. It means the moment you have developed attachment, that moment you have destined yourself to experience pain, because nothing in this world is of permanent nature. Everything is transitory. Whatever came will have to go. And the attachment is such a propensity of the mind that I won't let go of anything I love, I am attached to. I won't let go of it. And letting go means, like, for example, if you, let's say, you are attached to money, for example. You have some money, maybe, let's say, you have $2,000 in your pocket, and you kind of feel it is precious for you. And then, by pickpocket in the street, those money got stolen. Will you experience pain? Yes, you will experience pain. Sometimes that pain may be sudden, just and then and there was something, and now it is an emptiness within. So you feel a sharp, sudden pain within your mind. You may lose a person, let's say, the person you loved, just you had to separate with that person. You experience sharp, unbearable pain within. All that pain may go slowly. You lose bit by bit, bit by bit, bit by bit. For example, sometimes people, they come together, they say, oh, I love you forever. But after 2-3 years, both of them were changing. Their personalities were changing, their priorities were changing. And all of a sudden they find, what am I doing with this person? I have fallen in love with a different person, not with you. You see, the mind cannot adjust to the changes. And because of that inability to adjust, the person tries to adjust somebody else. He will not adjust himself. He will try to push other person to adjust with that idea that he has in his mind about him or her. And that's why manipulation. We are starting to manipulate other people just to manage that they will remain in the same shape as we want them to see. So that is Manipura chakra feeling, and it is painful because all those attempts to manipulate, all those attempts to control, they're painful because life is never what we expect it to be. Life is always something different. Life is always, and due to that attachment, life will cause us pain. One time, one spiritual teacher was asked by his disciple. The disciple said, Master, what is the nature of attachment? He said, okay, come with me. They went to the forest, and the teacher has chosen a most curved, the most distorted tree he could find. Then he ran, he charged on that tree, and he just bam, and then he kind of hold the tree like this, and then he screams. He says, "Help me, save me! The tree has caught me. The tree is giving so much pain to me." And the disciple, he was very surprised. He came around looking like this, and then like this. And then he said, "Teacher, forgive me my ignorance, but it is not a tree who is holding you. It is you who is holding who are holding the tree." And the teacher said, "Yes, that is the nature of attachment. Sometimes we got so much entangled with someone or with some object, and then we scream, 'Save me, help me. He is giving me so much pain. She is giving me so much pain.'" So, but it is actually not she or he, it is our own mind who is experiencing the variety of attachment, is also feeling pain. If the attachment will not be there, if we will learn how to manage that attachment, then most of the pains will go away. There will not be any pain. But often people ask, but Dada, but how? Should we be indifferent? Should we be... No, you should not be indifferent. Indifferent means is a level of Swadhisthana chakra. You don't care. You should rather proceed further to the next chakra, here to Anahata chakra. You should overcome attachment. And instead you should feel love. Love is what? Attachment is I is the first and you are the second. And love, you are the first and I am the second. I want to give, and if something I get in return is good, but already the process of giving is giving me so much joy and so much satisfaction, and due to that giving I'm already happy. I don't actually expect anything in return. But of course, who loves also is being loved, is always the same. I mean, the love is such a rare and precious quality. So the one who is able to love is always loved by others. So when you love, then you receive the love in response, and you are double happy. First, you didn't expect anything in return because you're already happy due to your own love, due to your own care that you give to the world. But the world also gives love and care to you in response, and it makes you double happy. But Manipura chakra, I first want to get, and then I will give. The love is Anahata chakra. I want to give, and maybe then I will get. Is a difference. So rather we should proceed to more love, to more care, but without creating attachment. In yoga, there is a special method to overcome attachment. I don't know how practical would it be for the beginners. I will, of course, speak at the end of the lecture about general methods of controlling Manipura chakra and general methods of strengthening Manipura chakra. So, of course, through those methods, the attachments will, you can more easily overcome attachment. But now I want to mention one specific method that yogis practice, that mystics practice. I don't know if it will be practical for beginners or not, but still I will mention it. The attachment is an attachment to form and shape. And love is the love to the essence. If you know, if you feel, if you ideate, if you imagine, if you try to find that the form and shape is only expression of one and the same essence, then you will not be attached to the form and shape, but rather you will be in love with the essence. We say, in your practice you say, when you practice the basic course of meditation, you do meditation with Baba Nam Kevalam mantra. Love is all there is. Supreme consciousness is all there is. We meditate that the Supreme Being, the highest spiritual reality, is the essence of all things. Means, let's say I'm caring for my son. I love my son. But whom do I really love? It is if I look deeply and more, how to say, more in a more profound way, I will find that all that goodness which exists in my son, all that kindness, all that smartness, all that talent, the creativity, it comes from the supreme entity, slowly expressing and manifesting through the mind of my son. So you will find that you are actually in love with that supreme reality. And then the objects will change. I love the God. I love God within my son. I love God within my dog. I love God inside of the son of my neighbor. I love God in my friends. I love God within my enemies, and so on and so on and so on. Of course, at the beginning it is difficult to feel, difficult to see. But with the practice of meditation, you slowly start to, it's kind of your eyes, your spiritual eyes are getting opened. And you start to feel that interconnectedness of all things. And you start to feel that you never lose anything. Everything is always there. You care, you love, but you do not get attached. Okay? So that is about attachment. Remember, the attachment increases due to proximity. The more closeness is there, the more attachment will be there also. In the body, for example, here, at this point, the attachment of mind towards the body is the least. And here, it is the closest point. Here is the I feeling is located. The closest point to the mind, here the attachment is the biggest, the highest. So we have attachment to the external world. The more attachment we have to our body, yeah, of course. For example, if someone is putting the gun at your face and he says, "Give me your wallet," of course you are going to give wallet because you are not going to give a life. you are much more attached to your body than you are attached to the money. And then in the body, for example, if someone is pointing the knife at your feet, or someone is pointing the knife here at the face, there will be totally different feeling. Here it will be very stressful, very traumatic. So if someone is hitting you here, is nothing. But if someone is hitting you here, it's very traumatic. It is a powerful experience. So the attachment grows with the proximity. The more we remain in the proximity of the objects, the more attached we become to the object, unless we practice that what I just told you. Unless we practice that special vision that these objects are nothing but the manifestation of the Supreme Entity. If you remain attached to the Supreme Entity instead of the shapes of the Supreme Entity, then no proximity is making any problem for you, any difficulty for you. So that is attachment. And due to attachment, many other emotions exist. The more is the level of attachment, the more will be the level of other emotions. For example, the next emotion is called bhaya or fear. Fear. What do we fear? What are we afraid of? We fear to lose the object of attachment. Some people are afraid of future. Why? Because maybe, in that unknown future, I will not have an opportunity to be with objects I love. Maybe there will not be those things which I am attached to today. So fear comes due to attachment. The more the attachment is, the more the fear is. I noticed when people start to practice meditation, they become more fearless. The fear reduces very much. Because in the process of meditation, what we do, especially in individual meditation, I have taught you basic method, which is also very efficient and powerful. But sometimes if you have chance, you learn also individual method of meditation. In that individual method of meditation, there is a process, step-by-step process, withdrawal. The mind is being withdrawn from external world, secondly from the body, and then from the mind itself, from the personality, from the history, from the thoughts. So when you experience that state of nothingness, when you are beyond your external world and you're beyond that body, you feel that I am not this body. Then consequently, attachment is also becoming less, because you are not that body. You are consciousness. So you're becoming less attached to the body. That experience when you are beyond your body makes you understand that this is not me. And then attachment becomes less. And the fear becomes less. The fear of death and all kinds of fear. Fear of old age, fear of to be without money, fear to be without friends, all those things. Once you experience that state, when you are already beyond those things, when you are already, above, and when you are feeling happy in that state, then of course the attachment grows less and less and less and less. I have seen, sometimes people like in women, how you can see the attachment to the body. So much makeup and so much attention to the physical beauty. Why? Because she will believe that I'm this body. But once they start meditating and experiencing I'm not this body, then within half year I noticed that they remain beautiful, they remain very tidy and nice, but not so much that, like extraversial, so much trying to express that their physical beauty, because they are feeling that I'm not this body. I'm something beyond that body. And the fear comes. The person can easily accept the coming of old age. Person, yeah, so many things, the fear is just going. And the life without fear is a happy life. Because first, what is the stress? First, we are trying to achieve something which we don't really need. Then we attain that, and then we are in fear to lose it. So we are trying to protect the whole life. And the life is spent in those negative emotions. It's not nice. So meditation is really one of the great means of overcoming fear and attachment. Okay, fear. Then fear really checks our expression. We could blossom. We could grow into the mighty tree from the tiny seed. But fear stops us. What will happen if I do this? Oh, maybe something terrible will happen. I will not do this. And then we lose opportunity after opportunity, opportunity after opportunity. To succeed in life, you have to be fearless. So that's why in the cultures, like a Japanese culture, there was this powerful, strong culture of Manipura Chakra. Overcoming, creating better Manipura Chakra, creating powerful Manipura Chakra. You can see the expression of the culture. Cleanliness, very clean. You will know why later when I speak about other deities. Then shame is very strong, you know. You should not be ashamed, otherwise there is this seppuku thing, you know. you kill yourself in a samurai way. Then fear, overcoming fear. Honor, that the fear is it is not an honorable emotion. So you have to overcome fear. You have to be brave. What is that braveness? That is the Manipura Chakra thing. That is the excellence of the Manipura Chakra. So fear is stopping us. It is really binding us, not allowing us to attain greatness. Of course, fear evolutionary, I mean for the animals to survive, like there are some predators and there are some, you know, prey animals. So for the rabbits and for the chicken to survive, they had to experience fear, and the fear had to mobilize us. Like fear, it starts the secretion of the stressful hormones, like from the adrenal glands, and then the muscles become very, very tense. The breath becomes very fast, and heartbeat becomes very fast, and the huge amount of physical energy released. The liver start to, you know, release sugar out of itself, and the huge amount of energy is released, and then you can run. You can. It is called fight or flight response. You are ready for anything to survive. So either one side of that fear is aggression. You go after, you want to destroy the object of fear. And another side is a fear. You want to run away from the object of fear. So in our present life, fear is not really helpful. I mean, certain degree of self-preservation instinct is necessary, but otherwise fear is just making us irrational. Like I'm delivering lectures. So sometimes someone will come who will like to challenge. There is 100 people sitting in the hall, and then someone is there who is, you know, looking like that, and he's asking the, as he thinks, inconvenient questions. But those questions may be inconvenient only if you are inconfident, if you have a lack of confidence. But if you are confident enough, if you are fearless, those questions are all convenient. But it is a challenge. If you have that fear, then you will become, either you will lose your face, or you will become aggressive. You will start attacking in response. And then, you know, you are an aggressive person. you lose your face anyway. So I find it is extremely important to possess yourself, to be in control of yourself. And fear is the greatest enemy, one of the greatest enemies. Then, secondly, okay, attachment, fear. Then there is thirst, desire to have. When the attachment develops, then the desire to have it also develops. For example, you have seen in a shop a motorbike, very good one. It is made out of spaceship materials, very expensive. And you thought, such a cool bike. And then you see it again, and then you see it again. Means your mind remains in the proximity with that object. And then slowly, the desire to have that object arises in the mind. Then finally you go and you buy. Huh? So that is how advertisement works. To bring your mind in the proximity with idea or with an object. And slowly, the mind will develop the desire to have that object. So thirst. Is this thirst, like Buddha used to say that to be happy, you have to get rid of the desire. If you overcome your desire, then happiness is there. But if the desire is there, then it creates misery within us. So the desire, it is such a powerful desire. I must have. Like sometimes if people, they fall in love or have a crush, I must have the object of my desire. If not, I do not want to live. That, I mean, I put the colors all very dense just to understand how it works. But to some extent, it is like that. So, Manipura chakra, attachment, fear, strong desire, thirst, Trishna is called. Then there is hatred. Hatred is opposite to the desire. Hatred is aversion. I don't want to have this object within my space. I want to get rid of this object. So that's why the initial effort to maintain cleanliness comes out of hatred. I hate impurity. I hate the garbage, so I remove it from I hate disharmony, so I create beauty. So that is comes from Manipura chakra. Hatred, for example, if some dirt come over your leg, you don't feel so much. But if something came in your face, then you feel, oh, immediately I need to remove. If there is a defect in some distant people, it's okay. You can still accept them, you can still love them. But if there is a defect in your near and dear ones, in your family members, that defect will irritate you more than the same defect in some distant person. You understand? That's why sometimes within our family, it's much more difficult to maintain a harmonious relationship because it's so close. The attachment is so strong. So slightest deviation from your picture in the mind, someone deviates from that picture in your mind, then you feel uncomfortable and you are trying to manipulate the people back into that image you have in your mind. So the irritation is another vritti of Manipura chakra. Irritation is a stressful emotions. Irritation is just like, there is some energy boiling within you and you are you're bottling it up, and then finally you blast. Like in the past, this instinct, this aggressive instinct, was ingrained in us that we survive. Already I was given examples of prey and predator. But for example, a human being of the past, of our dark evolutionary past, he is or she is walking with his, stick, with his glove, and he's walking, and then all of a sudden there is this human-devouring, human-eating tiger appears, and then the man will just jump, take his glove, and then finally kill the tiger, and then he will put his tiger on the shoulder and bring it home, and then finally he will relax. So that infusion of the stressful hormones will awaken unusual power within a man. And once that power is awakened, we are able to overcome a stressful situation. So nowadays, actually the body, the biology, the biochemistry is the same, but the time has changed very much. Nowadays, for example, if your boss is criticizing you, it is the same situation of stress. We perceive it as an attack, as if a tiger has attacked us. So we start to become mobilized for response. We get the infusion of stressful hormones, but we cannot respond. If you respond, you get fired. So you just bottle up that energy, you hold it. And then if you don't express it somehow, for example, you go to the gym and you do something, you do some physical activity. If you don't do much physical activity, that energy will bottle up, the stressful hormones will bottle up, your digestion will go wrong, your breathing, your heart, your blood pressure, your everything, all the system will go upset. And then finally, it will express as some physical disease, physical sickness. So that is why the blood pressure diseases, related diseases, heart stroke, brain stroke, they're killer number one in the world, especially because we eat unhealthy diet, and most of the people in the world, they eat unhealthy diet, lots of meat, lots of fat, so the blood vessels become narrow, and then also continuous stress, and then there is this increased blood pressure in the system, and then narrow passages of the blood vessels, and then one day just something will break and we will get a heart stroke or heart attack, or the brain will suffer. So yeah, it's like that. So irritation is there. So irritation also is concerned with attachment. Means if you don't have, what is attachment? Attachment is a certain picture in your mind. I want everything be my way, this way. And if something goes out of the way, out of order, then you experience stress. You feel disturbed. So later on, we have to develop into acceptance of life. At the Anahata Chakra, we accept the life. Okay, whatever comes, I'm going to manage with that. I'm going to adjust myself to the environment. But here we are trying to adjust environment to ourselves. We can do actually both. You know, the stress, what is stress? Stress is when you want something and cannot get, and then when you don't want something and you get. So that is called stress. So stress management, it means both. First you adjust. If you can change something in the external world, fine, do it. But if you cannot change, then change something within yourself. Accept it. Yeah. Okay? That was 5 already. Then there is envy or jealousy. Also very hot emotion. I had friends, not friends, neighbors in the village. 2 ladies, they were so jealous of each other, especially one of them. And they were trying always to compete in all spheres of life. In agriculture, in fashion, in everything. So one time, the one housewife, she grew very nice tomatoes, very big ones. And another one was like continuously failing in her agricultural attempts. She became so angry, so jealous. next night, she went. She took a piece of bread. She put some poison inside, and she gave to the pig of that lady. And the pig ate, and pig died. And she became so happy. She felt avenged. Completely blind, completely irrational feeling. Jealousy, envy. Yeah. So also there is a feeling of revenge in the Manipura chakra. Revenge is also like a sadistic tendency. What is sadistic tendency? What is also jealousy? What is jealousy? Is to feel happy when someone is unhappy and to feel unhappy when someone is happy. Of course, in evolutionary process that might be helpful because we are trying to be first, we are trying to always improve ourselves. It would be like a motivating force. But now at the human level is very bad because actually the success in the synergy, when we all work together, when we all cooperate, when in the collective, like let's say when in the corporation everyone is competing with each other, they cannot make in us collective, they cannot make breakthrough because everyone is pulling the energy his side. To be really able to produce something great, we have to get rid of this part of our personality, not to think about our own jealousies and feelings, but to think of the success of our common endeavor. So, in this way, Manipura chakra really disturbs. And then there is this sadistic tendency. Sadistic tendency is to cause harm, is to cause pain to others. When someone is experiencing pain, you feel exhilarated. So, like nowadays, people are watching boxing, wrestling, horror movies, all that stuff. Why? Because it gives some kind of exhilaration due to that inflicting pain on others. So it was also given, I mean, nothing in evolution is like, it didn't happen for no reason. Of course, the reason is there. To the revenge, at one point it was necessary to build a society. I mean, when you cause harm to someone, the revenge will come to you. So you are afraid. Due to fear, you abstain from harmful activity. So in that level, it might be helpful. But in our level, inflicting pain to others, at the human level, inflicting pain to others is not really accepted, is not right, and it is not rational. And also, whenever you inflict pain to others, that you can be sure that you have inflicted pain to yourself, because that pain will return. According to the law of karma, it will return to you. And you have created a deformation in your mind, and the mind will seek the restoration of the balance by finding a situation where someone will inflict pain to you. So that is not good, and we should control that. Okay, then there is a shame, shyness. Shame helps to control the brutish expressions of our being. Shame is the desire to be accepted by the group of people, by your society. So shame is a kind of externally imposed conscience. Conscience is at the level of Anahata chakra, is the feeling what is right and what is wrong. Inner feeling, internal feeling. But the shame is external feeling. When someone is approving of your actions, you feel it is right. When someone is disapproving, you feel it is wrong. So unless that conscience is developed, shame is a good thing. You will try to be at least no less than the standard, than the general standard in your society. But once you want to move further ahead and become better than the general standard, then the shame will obstruct your movement. Like, for example, when I was beginning to do meditation, I went with a train, and in Russia the trains takes long time. Sometimes you travel 7 days in the train from one side of the country to another one. So that journey of mine was like 5 days. So I have to do my everything. I have to take bath, I have to do asanas, I have to do meditation. And it is very kind of freaking uncomfortable when other people who have no idea about yoga, they see you doing these asanas, they see you doing this meditation, and they kind of disapprove of you. Or you think they disapprove of you. And it is kind of uncomfortable. So the shame, and many people cannot stand up to that emotion. They cannot overcome that emotion. They just do what is accepted in the environment. They do what is accepted in their society. They don't want to be in any way to be a radical person. So, but actually sometimes you have to do something which is not popular. You have to do something which is right, but it is not necessarily popular. It is not necessary. Everybody approves of that. In the long run, everyone will say, "Yeah, you're such a good person. You have done a good thing." But at the moment of the decision, it might be not so. So, between shame and conscience, there is a difference. One is internal, one is external, and one is later on. Yogi have to become shameless, because otherwise shame will disturb you. Giving again example of the public speaking, when I started to give lectures, it was so difficult when people look at you, and it is so difficult to be yourself, not to care what they think about you, and really try to deliver your message. And that is what is most appreciated about the speakers, because you have to deliver your message. You have to be spontaneous. You have to express in an original, authentic way. But if you try to just play with your listener and try to please your listener, your speech doesn't have any power. It is just, boring stuff. So that, the really brightness, really shining character, it comes out of the daring and boldness within. So shame had to be overcome. So shame and fear, they can be overcome when you are confronting the situation. Like Bernard Shaw, he said, "How did I become a popular speaker? How did I become, great master of speech? By making fun of me again and again, by making fool of me again and again and again and again." When you're experiencing those emotions like fear and shame, and you are standing up to them, you are bringing под control those emotions. You are bringing под control the Manipura chakra. You are bringing under control those emotions, the Manipura chakra. So when you feel fear and you are not succumbing to it, you're just standing up, then you become fearless. When you are feeling shame and you are still standing up to that, you become shameless. Of course, in the normal parlance, it is a negative saying, shameless. But in a yogi way, it is a good thing. But you have to develop also inner conscience, that you understand what is right and what is wrong. Because if you are fearless and if you are shameless, you can abuse that power. You can abuse that power. So you first have to establish yourself in the moral principles. You know what is right and what is wrong. Yeah, and then finally, there are two more vrittis, which is called, one is melancholia. Melancholia also somewhat helpful. Melancholia means, what is this world for? Is there any meaning of life, nothing is really worth living for. One time I heard the song. The guy is singing, nobody, 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 nobody cares for me. So that view of the world, when the world is dark, well, from that world view, you start to search for something more. You become dissatisfied with the material world finally. Manipura chakra, the city of jewels, does not attract you anymore, and you are seeking something else. Like if you come across, there is a book called Yoga Vasishta, is a kind of Purana, is a kind of mythological story about the king Rama, who is being taught by the sage Vasishta. And Rama is experiencing that dissatisfaction with the world. He's saying, why wealth? Because the wealth is not permanent. The wealth brings misery. Why beautiful women? They all will become old. And he's enumerating all the good things, and he's saying how those good things, they turn like nectar turns into the poison, how the pleasure turns into the pain. So he's realizing all of that. And then the sage saying, yeah, it's all right, you are understanding correctly. From now on I will take you to the journey of greatness. And he started to explain him deeper meaning of life. So melancholy, but in a normal life, is really disturbing. Like when you see the world through the dark eyes, everything you see is negative. Everything you see is negative. It spoils your life, it spoils the life of others. So it has to be overcome. And then finally there is this sushupti. Sushupti is the desire to conserve the energy. Or you can say staticity, laziness. I don't want to move. Or nothing really inspires me. I want to just remain where am I. Yeah, that is also due to the weakness of Manipura chakra. Okay, so I will just briefly mention all of them again. Lajja is the shame, shyness, pishunata, sadistic tendency, desire to inflict pain, irsha, envy, jealousy, sushupti, staticity, sleepiness, laziness, vishada, melancholia, kashaya, peevishness, and kind of irritation. Then trishna, yearning for acquisition. I want to have. Then moha, infatuation, attachment, grina, hatred, revulsion, and then finally bhaya, fear. Okay, so these are the 10 petals of Manipura chakra. Now let us see how we can balance the Manipura chakra, how we can make it stronger. Manipura chakra is concerned with digestive system. So food is important. If you eat wrong food, it will bring the Manipura chakra out of balance. The food has to be balanced. Balanced food called pramitahara in yoga. It is neither too much or too little. It is just measured and also nutritious and easily digestible. We advise to eat vegetarian diet. It is the best for the human body and mind. So food is important. Then fasting. Fasting is an important means to maintain in a proper condition our digestive system. Your intestines, they're getting filled with the waste of the body. And we have to give the body chance to clean it up. The entire digestive system is kind of getting clogged if you eat and eat and eat without break. If you would work for 30 years without having a single holiday, how would you feel? So your digestive system is working and working and working without ever taking any break. So it is good to give a break to the digestive system. And we are practicing fast without food and without water on the 11th day after new moon and full moon. Those days there is especially strong tidal waves, and the water, like due to the gravitation of the moon and sun together, there is a movement of the water in the planet. So, and our body also is made of water, and that liquid factor is affected within the body. So the nerves, they get agitated, and in those days, if you watch closer to the new moon and to the full moon, there are many road accidents, there are many, you know, the fights, there are many crimes is increasing and so on. So I'm really observing that all the time. Sometimes I know that it is time to fast because I see too many cars crashed in the road. And by fasting, you're actually reducing that effect. By fasting without water, you're reducing that effect. And moreover, but it is more like an effect on Swadhisthana chakra. No? And moreover, effect on Manipura chakra is that the digestive system becomes cleaned. There is one separate video on that. I'm going to release it further on. Or maybe if already by now it is released, you'll find it on my YouTube. It is in a playlist called Practices of Acquiring Psychic Strength. So fasting is very, very good. Fasting will clean the digestive system and maintain it in healthy condition. So vegetarian food, balanced food, fasting. Then there is this, the Manipura chakra is connected with the heat of the body. So by using cold water, you will strengthen the Manipura chakra. When you take shower, it is advised to take shower with cold water. Then the Manipura chakra will be better. How you will feel that it is better? You are more energetic. You are not sluggish. Your mind is clear. The intellect is just, you know, sharp. So it is advised to take with cold water. If you cannot right now take the shower with the cold water, then take with the warm water. But then at the end, you pour the ice cold water on you. It is advised to pour first on the navel area at the Manipura chakra, then the Manipura chakra from behind, and then from top along the spine, the water will run, and then it will cool down all the chakras. And in that way, your body becomes prepared. Your body will not get shocked, and your body will not catch cold. And then you pour the ice cold water, and it is very invigorating and very nice and very good for the Manipura chakra. You become much more. You will feel that how the quality of fire opens up and develops up in you. You become more courageous, more, you know, strong person, and digestion also becomes better. Then there is this partial wash up. You have seen it already in the basic course. It is called diving reflex. When you wash with the cold water your extremities, then navel, then here, then neck, behind the ears, and then you put some water in the mouth, and then you splash at least 12 times in your eyes. So that is also very, very helpful for Manipura chakra. When the Manipura chakra is good, you will never have mucus in the nose. No, always the nose is clear. The passage of air is clear, and consequently the mind is also very clear and sharp. Okay, that one. And then asanas. Asanas are good. Karmasana, action posture. That asana makes lazy people active. It gives energy. It gives desire to do something. Then there is this Mayurasana, peacock posture. If you do Mayurasana, your digestive system becomes very strong. Like Mayura, the peacock. Peacock eats snakes with the poison and digests, no problem. That powerful digestion. So you can also ingest poison and still survive by doing Manipura chakra, Mayurasana. Mayurasana, then Chakrasana, it's bridge posture. Naukasana, boat posture. Utkata Paschimottanasana, Agnisara Mudra, Uddayana Bandha, and Matsyendrasana. These asanas very, very good for the developing of Manipura chakra. And there is also Agni Mudra. When you lie down, you concentrate at the point of Manipura chakra and you breathe in, and while breathing in, you are imagining that the entire energy of the cosmos is entering into this point. And when you're breathing out, you're releasing that energy, and that energy is merging with the universal cosmic energy. So you do it like 7 breaths. Breathe in and breathe out. Okay, so these are the methods. I think, yeah, that's all. Asanas, cooling down the system, taking care of your food, eating proper food, then fasting, and then this half bath, also this diving reflex, and taking shower with the cold water. That is all Manipura chakra. And then also, like I mentioned before, overcoming attachment by imposing a spiritual idea, trying to see the divine in others, and to be attached with that divine, and not to be attached with the expression of the divine. And then also developing Manipura chakra through standing up to your emotions. Means if you feel fear, don't run away from the situation. Stand up there. Just take your stand and be there until your fear is surpassed. And then also the shame, the same way. Yeah. Okay, I think that's it. So please practice. Try, at least you try those asanas, and you just observe in yourself the expression. Also, when you feel certain emotions, you just see where you feel the vibration in the body, and then the feelings, the nerve feelings. It will help you to understand better this subject of biopsychology. Then also you observe in others how all these 10 vritis, they're all interconnected. It's just like one family, it's one energy expressing through 10 different directions, 10 different ways. It's very interesting. Yeah. So if you like this video, you please share it. If you like it, you like it. If you like it very much, then you share it. If you feel it is useful and it will help to many other people. And it actually will help, because due to the weak Manipura chakra, many people, they get sick and they die also due to the blood pressure diseases and all that. So if you do this observe this simple advice about improving Manipura chakra, then it will help. So you share it and you make sure you subscribe to this channel, so spread the word. Thank you very much. Namaskar.